Good morning and welcome into the Cam Rogers Show on this Wednesday. I am Cam Rogers. We thank you for coming along for the next hour here with some juicy information across the NFL, the latest headlines, of course, and some good ones at that. I've got hot off the press, my latest 5 best fits for Dez Bryant. I'll count you down from 5 all the way to 1. And then, well, Urban Meyer spoke out recently about the Zach Smith investigation. I will react to that. And then, of course, we have a football game tomorrow night, Browns-Jets. I will preview and predict that. So, without any further ado, let's go to one of the top stories of the week so far. Josh Gordon is now a member of the New England Patriots. The Browns received a 5th-round conditional pick, while New England will get a 7th-round pick in 2019 from the Browns if Gordon is not active for 10 games this season. So at least 8 to 10 teams called the Browns inquiring about potentially trading for Gordon. Now, to make room for Gordon, the Patriots released another former Brown, Corey Coleman, who is now without a job. He couldn't make the Bills roster, couldn't make the Patriots roster. The Patriots now have made 28, count it, 28 transactions involving a wide receiver since the start of the new league year. That's tied for the most. By the way, none of them involving one Dez Bryant, but that could change next month. We shall see. So the Browns did announce prior to the weekend that they were going to release Josh Gordon on Monday, aka a couple of days ago. That was a PR move so that a flood of teams would call the Browns and John Dorsey to get some sort of deal done. It worked. John Dorsey knows what he's doing, and the Patriots called, the 49ers called, shout out Marcus Williams watching the show, the Dallas Cowboys called, reportedly, according to Adam Schefter. Shout out to you, Eric. There, big Cowboys fan on Facebook Live. So everybody was calling, particularly from the NFC. The Browns initially wanted to trade Josh Gordon to their opposing conference in the NFC, not a team within the AFC. So with that said, the Patriots must have offered much higher in compensation compared to, say, the 49ers or the Dallas Cowboys. A 5th-round pick for a guy who has not played a full 16 games since 2012 certainly does seem like a steep price tag, but the Patriots were willing to do it. And like I said, Gordon was going to be released basically because the Browns had lost trust in Josh Gordon. He was late to a recent practice. He was dealing with a hamstring injury and all of this. And now Josh Gordon could very well be playing on Sunday Night Football against the Detroit Lions, and Matt Patricia, former defensive coordinator there for the New England Patriots. So the Patriots lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday afternoon, and much of that was because, well, the cornerbacks and the safeties for Jacksonville were just too much for New England's wide receivers and Rob Gronkowski in particular. So the Patriots traveled on the road, hot weather, to Jacksonville, lost that game. Early season loss, not the worst thing in the world. So I ask you, are the Patriots still the team to beat in the AFC? Go ahead, type away. 1 for yes, 2 for no. I assume everybody's going to type away with 2 on this because, well, I released my power rankings, my top 10 edition, last night on my Facebook page. Go ahead and like it, The Cam Rogers Show on Facebook. And I still have New England at number 4, ahead of the Chiefs, just behind the Jacksonville Jaguars, ahead of the Steelers, of course, because, boy, are they a mess right now. So by law, I think, when you make power rankings, you got to at least here put the Patriots behind the Jaguars because the Patriots literally just lost to them. But aside from that, I still think New England is a team that is going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. The Jaguars have some tough games within the AFC South to play this year, especially this week against the Tennessee Titans, a team that just beat the Houston Texans. So for the Patriots, meanwhile, in the AFC East, well, it's more of cupcake kind of competition there, right? So it's a lot tighter in the AFC South, whereas in the AFC East, of course, well, kind of cupcake central there. Now, our friends at BETDSI have laid out the odds for Josh Gordon's total receiving yards in Week 3 against the Detroit Lions. Here you go. Where are you guys going on this? Over at 55.5 or under at 55.5 yards receiving? The odds are set -130 for over that number, +100 for under that number. Now, a couple things are at play here. Number one, Josh Gordon barely knows the offense, if at all. Number two, the Lions have some good pieces in that secondary. Glover, Quinn, Quantre, Diggs, Darius Slay. These guys are solid. And number three, the Patriots could decide to run the football here because the Lions are pretty leaky on the front seven. They're a little dinged up right now. So what do you guys think? Over, under on Josh Gordon this week. In terms of fantasy prognostications and FanDuel play this week, no thanks. Now, Gordon is probably going to be a sexy contrarian pick, which really doesn't make it a contrarian pick if everybody's jumping on board eventually. So I would stay away from Josh Gordon on FanDuel this week. But go ahead and let me know what you guys think here about Josh Gordon and his receiving totals this week. Seeing some votes from Craig and Zachary, frequent watcher, over 55.5 receiving yards. All right, we'll see. Next up here on the list, the Chicago Bears beat the Seattle Seahawks on Monday Night Football, and I guess Frank Clark still wasn't very impressed, at least with the quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky. So Seahawks defensive end said that Mitchell, following the game, was okay, nothing special. Here's the full-on quote. He was okay, nothing special. I feel like he was okay, again. He's an average quarterback. Frank Clark of the 0-2 Seattle Seahawks, by the way. So, dude, like, why are you doing this? Because you're 0-2, and you're on the verge of actually, yes, losing to the Dallas Cowboys at home. I'll say it right here, right now. And so you're on the verge of going 0-3 and about to be one of the bigger embarrassments in the NFL this season. By the way, something I predicted. I had no faith in the Seattle Seahawks to actually be a contender this year, and you're kind of mouthing off to a guy who at least has a victory so far this season. I don't think this is the best PR move here, Frank. I understand you had a sack in the game. You were fine from an individual standpoint. But from a team perspective, you're in shambles. Your offensive line can't block. Russell Wilson is running for his life. You can't run the football because you can't win the line of scrimmage. The secondary is a little leaky, although Griffin is looking pretty good at corner. But other than that, I don't know why you were calling out Mitchell Trubisky. Now, is Mitchell Trubisky an average quarterback? I don't know. I think the jury is still out on this guy. I think he is a career complimentary back, to be honest with you. But still, there's time for him to improve. And, I think it's a little too early to just cement Mitchell Trubisky as an average quarterback in the NFL. So interesting statements there by Mr. Clark of the 0-2 Seattle Seahawks. Meanwhile, boy, is the sky falling in Pittsburgh. Could the Steelers be trading Antonio Brown? Folks, things are getting interesting because Brown didn't show up to meetings on Monday for Pittsburgh. This comes as a former member of the Pittsburgh Steelers PR team said Monday that Antonio Brown wouldn't be as productive without Ben Roethlisberger. So Brown clapped back on Twitter by quote tweeting and saying, quote, "Trade me and we'll see." Okay, well, Antonio, since you created the buzz, maybe there could be a trade. Now, let me say before I actually show my projected trade deal here that from a financial perspective, it makes 0 sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers to trade this guy, the #1 wide receiver in the NFL. Still has plenty of years left on his deal. He's the best at his position, and Roethlisberger can still sling it. You saw it last week against the Chiefs. That said, perhaps Antonio Brown is growing frustrated with Pittsburgh. A, because they botched the Le'Veon Bell situation, who has yet to show up, by the way, and Brown is a staunch supporter of Le'Veon. B, Brown has been acting out lately, firing back at a local reporter, you may recall. And C, Brown appeared visibly frustrated with the Steelers coaching staff on the sideline. So perhaps Brown has had it. Nobody really knows except for AB. So once again, the Steelers will not trade this guy, but I've been wrong before multiple times. So maybe the Green Bay Packers, fully equipped with 2 first-round picks, give Pittsburgh a call and say, hey, forget about Le'Veon Bell. Give us Antonio Brown. 2019 first-round pick, 2019 second-round pick, and the grizzled veteran himself, Mercedes Lewis, to add to that tight end depth chart there, all go to Pittsburgh. Green Bay gets Antonio Brown, and Green Bay cements itself as the favorite to win Super Bowl 53. So the Steelers get a pretty hefty package there. The Packers get the best wide receiver out there, 5 straight seasons of 100 receptions and 1,200 yards, 6 Pro Bowls, 4-time first-team All-Pro. This is somewhat fantasy land, but you guys know, crazier things have happened in the NFL before. What if Antonio Brown is reaching a tipping point with Mike Tomlin, reaching a tipping point with the assistants on the coaching staff of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Now you got to wonder, Le'Veon Bell's holding out. Antonio Brown is creating buzz about a trade right now. What's going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers leadership? So, do you guys think the Steelers will actually trade AB? Go ahead, type away. Y for yes, N for no. Some people out there in the comments section before on my Facebook page and, of course, live right now are saying that maybe the Dallas Cowboys can make a move. Maybe the San Francisco 49ers could make a move. You guys got to remember that salary cap space matters here, too. Antonio Brown is making a lot of money right now. And so the Cowboys, the 49ers, these other teams are going to have to ingest that contract there. So keep that in mind. But I think Green Bay has the ability to create a hefty package here. Heck, they may even raise the price tag, the Steelers might, to 2 first-round picks. And the Packers can still do that. They just won't pick in the first round in 2019. I think they're okay with that when you have Antonio Brown and Devontae Adams and Jimmy Graham. Talk about that offense, guys. Seriously. So for the Packers, they could be an interesting team to give the Pittsburgh Steelers at least a call. You know, Brian Gutekunst, the GM, may call Kevin Colbert, the GM for Pittsburgh, and say, hey, let's chat. But Antonio Brown, easy play on FanDuel every single week, folks. We are sponsored by FanDuel here on the Cam Rogers Show. If you're thinking about playing Antonio Brown this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you may want to think again because Tampa Bay has been pretty darn good so far this season. So keep that in mind, along with this buzz out there that Antonio Brown wants to be traded. So maybe you stay away, but I guess at the same time, he'd be an interesting contrarian play on FanDuel as well. Go ahead, sign up, FanDuel.com/chatsports. Get $20 for free on that initial deposit of $5 in total for you to play with on FanDuel in Week 3. DM me for advice, and if you want to get into my game as well, free entry, so go ahead and get it done. All right. Let's talk about Baker Mayfield. Could it be Baker time for the Cleveland Browns? I know they have a game tomorrow night and all that, but according to the Monday Morning Quarterback on Sports Illustrated, it could be time for Baker Mayfield to be the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns, of course, are still searching for their first win since 2016, and, of course, it's way too late to actually play Baker tomorrow night against the Jets. Perhaps he's not too far down the line from playing, and he has way more upside on FanDuel, by the way, than what Tyrod Taylor would have. So if Baker becomes the starter for the Cleveland Browns, and you guys are using FanDuel.com/chatsports to sign up, you can use that free deposit money, perhaps at some point, on Baker Mayfield, who probably won't be that expensive either. Now, nobody knows Baker's readiness for the NFL other than really offensive coordinator Todd Haley and head coach Hugh Jackson. And it's worth noting that around draft time, the Browns, among other teams out there, gushed about Mayfield's football IQ and leadership here. So the Browns have a quality offense as well. I mean, they got some good pieces there. Antonio Callaway and Carlos Hyde, and all these guys, right? And of course, Jarvis Landry, who just, gets at least 5 receptions a game, seemingly every single game of his NFL career. So as we stand, of course, Tyrod Taylor, the unequivocal starter for Cleveland, Baker Mayfield, QB2. Drew Stanton is the insurance emergency guy as well. Tyrod Taylor in 2 games, 443 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Not the most inspiring stat line in the world. Now, Taylor can put all of this buzz to rest tomorrow night when he battles the Jets at home. At the same time, if Taylor is really bad against the Jets, you can expect the boo birds coming out from the dog pound calling for Baker Mayfield to be the starting quarterback there for the Browns. So keep that on the top of your mind. All right, so guess who was spotted jet skiing in Miami? Le'Veon Bell. By the way, shout out to TMZ Sports for always finding these interesting little nuggets. So they were apparently near Le'Veon Bell. They captured some video of him jet skiing in Miami. And at one point, the man filming the video says, "Give my man his money." And then Bell goes, "You already know." So obviously, laughing about the whole contract situation. Of course, Bell is looking for a long-term deal, which the Steelers can't even do, by the way, because the July 16th deadline has already come and gone. That said, Bell could return, sign his franchise tender, and then request a trade to a team that will pay him. Maybe the Jets, maybe the Colts, maybe the Packers out there. It's kind of funny, though, that Le'Veon Bell is like laughing and jet skiing in Miami, and the sky is falling in Pittsburgh as they are 0-1-1 on the season with a tie to the Cleveland Browns and an embarrassing defensive performance and loss to the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, who had 6 touchdowns passing. So Le'Veon Bell is in no hurry, it appears, to join the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. Some rumors out there that, heck, he's going to wait until Week 10, the minimum number of games to allow him to accrue a full-on season according to his contract. So what do you guys think about this Bell situation? Should he return now, or should he continue to hold out? R for return in the comments section. H for hold out. Go ahead and vote on Facebook Live as well as YouTube Live. But apparently, Bell is living his best life right now. So power to him. I've always been on Bell's side about all of this. I think Pittsburgh totally ruined the relationship with him. And at this point, Bell really isn't helping himself to get back to Pittsburgh and really convince his offensive linemen to block for him, to be honest with you. They've already called him out on that. But in the end, he's going to return at some point. He needs to at least accrue a full season, or according to his contract, a real season in 2018. That way he can enter free agency in 2019. He can cash out, sign a big-time contract, and go on his merry way. So expect him to return at some point, but he ain't in any hurry as we stand. In fact, he's closer to the Miami Dolphins right now than he is to the Pittsburgh Steelers from a geography standpoint. All right, how about Ryan Fitzpatrick? Could he be the long-term starter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Hey, if you ask DeSean Jackson, Fitzpatrick should remain the quarterback, even when Jameis Winston returns from his 3-game suspension. How about these stats? In 2 weeks, Fitzpatrick has thrown for 819 yards, more than any quarterback in the league. He's completing nearly 78% of his passes and has thrown for 8 touchdowns along with 1 rushing touchdown. Also has a 151.5 passer rating, higher than any other quarterback in the NFL. And Week 2 against Philadelphia was just absolutely stunning to me. 27 of 33, 402 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, just 1 interception. DeSean Jackson, a big reason why Fitzpatrick was so darn good. 4 receptions, 129 yards, and a touchdown. That yards per reception is like vintage DeSean Jackson there, 32.3 there. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are firing on all cylinders right now. With that said, everybody's coming at me because I have Tampa Bay at number 11 on my power rankings, not inside the top 10 yet. If they beat Pittsburgh on Monday Night Football, then I will put them inside my top 7. You can guarantee that. But folks, I want to caution all of you watching the Cam Rogers Show right now. We have seen this movie before with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Time machine, all the way back to 2011. Fitzpatrick, Buffalo Bills. Week 3, Fitzpatrick and the Buffalo Bills beat the New England Patriots at Ralph Wilson Stadium, the name of it back then. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick signed this monster contract. And guess what happened? He stunk, the Bills stunk, and the Bills didn't make the playoffs. And the Patriots did. Actually ended up going to the Super Bowl that year, thanks Billy Cundiff. So I just caution all you guys, it's been 2 games. Let's not jump on the Ryan Fitzpatrick is the answer bandwagon just yet. With that said, he should remain the starter. I wholeheartedly believe that. I also wholeheartedly believe you should buy yourself a mizzen and main shirt right now. These are comfortable as F dress shirts. Get it done, folks. They are providing the clothing for us here at Chat Sports. Comfortable.af is indeed the website. Comfortable as F shirts. So, Fitzpatrick is playing well. Maybe Jameis Winston could be traded. This coming from NJ.com, which recently released a list of players who could be traded this year. Now, we saw the typical names, Le'Veon Bell and Earl Thomas and Devontae Parker, but it also had Jameis Winston. And I thought to myself, you know, I should probably talk about this because it kind of makes sense. So, A, the logic is Fitzpatrick is playing so well that Winston becomes expendable in a way. But it's not just because of Ryan Fitz. There's also the fact that Winston is no stranger to getting into trouble. And then there are reports out there that Winston and head coach Dirk Cutter don't exactly get along either. And in the NFL, of course, there are always quarterback-needy teams out there. Winston could be on the move if Fitzpatrick continues the fantastic play. By the way, Fitzpatrick has been a gem on FanDuel, too. But if Winston goes somewhere else, perhaps where a quarterback goes down to injury and it's to a team that is a contender and just needs a quarterback fill-in, I mean, Winston's still a fine and interesting fantasy football option, particularly on daily fantasy with FanDuel. But right now, I mean, you know, he's somewhat worthless because he's on a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that has some really good quarterback play going on right now from Ryan Fitzpatrick. I do think the trade is incredibly unlikely here because I do think Tampa Bay wants to figure out if Jameis Winston is the franchise guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, kind of like what the Tennessee Titans are doing with Marcus Mariota there. So Edward Wright on YouTube Live is saying Winston is the future, perhaps. Tannehill, Winston to the Patriots. That would be interesting because the Patriots are looking for the future after Tom Brady, right? Because it ain't Danny Etling, I can tell you that much. So that would be an interesting play, actually. We shall see. But for now, sounds like Winston isn't on the move. All right, folks, I mentioned FanDuel. They are sponsoring the show here today. Go to FanDuel.com/chatsports. Go ahead and sign up. And when you deposit $5, you're getting $20 for free in your back pocket. Get in the game for this week in the NFL. Games start tomorrow night, of course, Browns and Jets, but so many different games to play in, just Sunday night, et cetera, et cetera. So really a fantastic way to up that excitement when you're watching the NFL this year. All right, so FanDuel sponsoring the Cam Rogers Show here today. A little crossover to Harris Rubenstein's territory here. Could Kevin Durant play for the Los Angeles Rams? All right, we're having fun with this rumor a little bit, but Kevin Durant recently took to social media to express his admiration for Aaron Donald and that he was ready to sign up to play for the LA Rams. Now, Sean McVay, of course, was asked about this, and he actually said that Durant would be really valuable in the red zone. Hey, the guy's 6'9", 240, big body, long arms, go up and grab those footballs. Hey, why not? And I will say he's on a 1-and-1 contract with the Warriors right now. He can opt out after this season and then sign with the LA Rams and win a Super Bowl with LA. No, but I mean, in all seriousness, from a financial perspective, number one, Kevin Durant does not want to sign an NFL contract. Way different from the NBA. Number two, the Rams are going to be really strapped for cash in 2019. There are just so many reasons why this wouldn't happen. I think in the end, it was a joke from Kevin Durant. But at the same time, guys, let's have some fun here. Should Durant join the LA Rams? Go ahead, vote away. Y for yes, N for no. There's been discussion before over the last few years about LeBron James playing for the Cleveland Browns, playing at the tight end position and all this. So, hey, who's to say it can't happen? Crazier things in the world. But I think Kevin Durant is just fine with the Golden State Warriors, perhaps the best team in the NBA, perhaps for the next few years. All right? So let's go to this next bombshell book that came out about Tom Brady and a potential Bill Belichick divorce. So it's a book written by Ian O'Connor of ESPN titled Belichick, The Making of the Greatest Football Coach of All Time. So it had some interesting details on the dynamic between Brady and Belichick. According to one passage, Brady isn't exactly enthused about playing with Belichick anymore. So O'Connor was told from a source, quote, "If you're married 18 years to a grouchy person who gets under your skin and never compliments you, after a while, you want to divorce him." Another point in the book, Brady's sister Nancy also told people Tom was concerned Belichick would do something to him like what the Colts did to Peyton Manning. Now, however, Tom Brady's love of the Patriots and the game of football, of course, brought him back to the Patriots in 2018. But as late as March, Tom Brady was thinking about leaving Bill Belichick, perhaps retiring or requesting a trade. Yes, the word trade was mentioned in this book. So this is just the latest edition of the evidence and the, shall we say, chronicling of the relationship between Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Of course, you may recall Seth Wickersham a couple of months ago wrote a big piece on the power struggle and the dynamic among Kraft, Belichick, and Brady. Wickersham, for example, reported Brady and Belichick held separate meetings with Kraft last season that resulted in Jimmy Garoppolo getting traded to the San Francisco 49ers, of course, much to Belichick's dismay, because Brady wanted the assurance that he was going to be the starter for the next few years. Belichick, meanwhile, wanted to leave some sort of legacy after he retired. And so with Jimmy Garoppolo becoming the starter after Tom Brady, Belichick kind of dusts off his hands and says, okay, my work here is done. The Patriots are cemented for another 10 to 15 years, maybe more. So that was the logic there from both sides. And, you know, I've said this so many times on this very show that I am totally not shocked that Tom Brady has issue with Bill Belichick. I mean, think about it. The two have been together for years and years and years. And eventually, the relationship can just get stale. You know what I mean? Like, especially when your personalities diverge so cleanly, because Brady is all about positivity and lifting each other up. Belichick is old school. He'll rail into you. He's not Mr. Compliment. That's just how he operates. And Brady, you know, it's amazing he's actually held out this long, and he's finally getting to a tipping point, and perhaps the New England Patriots are getting to a tipping point where we could see their supremacy in the AFC crumble down before us. Maybe that Jacksonville Jaguars game on Sunday afternoon is an example of that. Maybe the Jags, the Chiefs, the Steelers are all better than the Patriots by the season's end. Who knows? It's only been 2 weeks. But this excerpt and this book in general from Ian O'Connor falls in line with everything we have been tracking and reading and hearing about the last few months about Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Robert Kraft. There is friction. There are egos clashing. It's almost like the situation with Jim Harbaugh in San Francisco. The players started to lose Jim Harbaugh, you know, or I guess you could say Jim Harbaugh started to lose the players. It was kind of a back and forth type deal. And there are reports about this, by the way, with Mike Tomlin in the Pittsburgh Steelers and Marvin Lewis in the Cincinnati Bengals. It's not unique to the New England Patriots. But the reality is, for New England, they're going to have to bat off all of this adversity, and maybe they can channel it for the positive. Channel that us against the world mentality. Are the Patriots overrated? Go ahead, let me know. O for overrated, N for not overrated. All right, so let me know what you think about that. Those are the latest NFL headlines here on the Cam Rogers Show.